Great. Thanks a lot, everyone. This is the second webinar that is focusing on the risk systemicity questionnaire, this time between the cities of Kristiansand and Vejle. Last week, we were in Kristiansand, and we had the second stakeholder training workshop that was focusing on the risk systemicity questionnaire. And I will just give you like a very brief overview of what happened there, and then I will give the speech to Colin Eden from Strathclyde University, as he was the one who conducted the workshop. It took place on the 9th of February. The focus group was on external stakeholders, plus there were some City of Kristiansand stakeholders from the municipality as observers. The session ran for about 3 hours. Colin Eden facilitated the event. Also, Ikley was present. 4 risk topics were completed, and then we had a discussion on the results. And as you know, and was agreed already some months ago, this webinar is a follow-up to the training workshop. A guiding questionnaire has been sent already out to Vejle a couple of weeks ago, and this will help somehow to guide the discussion later. Following this brief intro, I will ask Colin to give us a brief explanation of what happened in the workshop for the benefit of the participants from Vejle. And then Kristiansand can give us their feedback on the session through a facilitated discussion by Strathclyde, and then Vejle can ask questions based on the guiding questionnaire, and also if they have some other of their own. In the end, we can, before wrapping up, we can have also a session on lessons learned and what we can take on for the next pilot implementation session that is taking place next week, next Tuesday in Glasgow. Colin, now you will become the presenter, and then you can move on the presentation from now on.
Okay, I sent you all some documentation a little while ago. Probably just worth going quickly through what each of those are. We did a general introduction to the SMR project, which Jose did to start off the morning, after Vasilios had introduced everybody. I think that probably took, on my record, just about 20 minutes to do that. Jose went through it, and Jose went through it in Norwegian anyway, so I have no idea what he said. I then did an introduction to and this is the second PowerPoint set of slides you've got. I did an introduction to the RSQ implementation. It's called RSQ implementation KRS. Just a quick note on those. There's quite a lot of slides there that are hidden slides because they were used in Dynastia and were not relevant to Kristiansand. So that gives you some idea about what we did as an introduction to the RSQ. Then you'll see there's a slide in there which says, let's get started, and that's what we did. It gives you an overview of the topics we started from. We've got a group of people who are largely social issue related. Just a note, there were 6 external stakeholders, 3 people from the municipality, including Sigurd, who was there. Interestingly, 2 women and 4 men. You've got a Word document, which is the notes, a combined effort between Vasilios and myself of notes we took during the workshop as we proceeded going through the RSQ. I sent you as well the results of the RSQ in RSQ documentation. So that's the Excel spreadsheet that I sent you. Worth noting that the RSQ has been updated since then anyway, partly, or mostly in fact, to reflect the need to get the comments that are in the Word document typed into the RSQ directly. So there are now comment boxes in the RSQ that were not fully available when we went through it in Kristiansand last week. And the final document that I sent you is a PowerPoint document, which is the notes that I've made on facilitation of such a group. Now, you'll find in that there's one or two notes which explain the comment box. In other words, I put in there how the comment boxes now might be used. So on slide 5, for example, it says, note this facility was not available in Kristiansand, but is now available following the Kristiansand experience. I think that's probably all I need to say, really. I think it's probably better to hand over to Sigurd for his comments. Did everybody hear that?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Can you
no
hear
response
me?
from anyone. I wonder whether I've got my microphone muted or something.
You can hear me?
I can hear you, Sigurd.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, my comment is that it was a little bit shock for me that I had to take over from now on because of the sick leave of Silje. But anyway, we made RSQ training or implementation as good as we could, and we chose to sort of how should I put this? We try to find the right stakeholders as we could. But the problem with an RSQ is, of course, it will not be better than the people that attend. That's the first thing I would say. The second one is that the people that we normally would have used to do such a RSQ is probably not the same as was at this event, because we will pre-planned it much more, and they will done their sort of studies up front, and we would certainly have a meaning by inviting them, because it's relevant, or it's sort of stakeholders that we have cooperation agreements with, or something like that. But we did it this way, and I think that the people that attended, they tried as much as they could. I don't know if I can say anything else.
I might just add that Sigurd did a fabulous job at very short notice in getting what were an interesting group of people together. And it was short notice. It was pretty much, I think, probably 24 hours notice to get the people that we had attending.
Thank you.
And if I may add also that from the discussions that followed the workshop during lunch, I think that the participants were quite interested, and maybe it was one of the most engaged groups that we had so far.
Yes, but again, it has very much to do with not for this session, but if we should talk about if we find it useful to have. I talked with one of the observers, Dr. Eirik Abelsnes. He had to go 11 o'clock, but anyway, he was there. And he said that it could be useful sort of to this kind of tool in a focus meeting, because we normally have focus meeting towards stakeholders to find out where we are and what we should sort of put into the strategic plan. And in that way, if we had it made in Norwegian, we could actually use that kind of tool. He said. So I believe that that is a possibility.
Picking up on Vasilis's point, I think we were both actually talking at some length to Ingan and Claudia at lunchtime, and they were certainly both very enthusiastic about the morning and felt they got a lot from it, and would be very willing to participate in any future such event.
Yes, definitely. So if we should say something about what we would change, of course it should be in Norwegian. Of course there should be a planning, how to plan to do the RSQ. I think that is important to do also together with the stakeholders, so they know what is the mandate, why are we doing it. But of course that would be a part of the process in a way, and yeah. But otherwise, I find it actually it was clear to the work that you have done, Colin, up front, and to sort of find the right questions. I think that you actually it was a good hit in a way. This is the reality that we have to sort of have a RSQ about.
And the question from my side, would you think that it would make sense if there were repeated sessions in the future?
Yes, it definitely. But again, the purpose of the RSQ has to be put into sort of a framework, and the overall idea is actually to put it into the framework of resilient. The problem we still have is that we haven't made our that framework for all of the areas. We still are in our municipality. We are talking about water and sewage. I mean critical infrastructure, because that is the way the program has turned. So now we are trying out a tool when it comes to sort of social issues. That's quite another thing. If you understand. So it's depending very much on what kind of issue, what is the framework for it, how is that framework presented to the stakeholders. I think the municipality has to be in lead of these questions, and together with the general managers, and everything has to be put into the scope of, for example, the strategic process that the municipality is doing every 4th year, or even every year they are doing it, because that is down to the budget, but we also do it every 4th year. So in a way we are doing something just to try it out, and we are trying as good as we can, and we get some result, but it doesn't actually mean anything before we have put it into these normal processes that we are doing.
What do you think about the point with Sigurd of simply, as opposed to actually having an influence on your strategic plan and so on, but actually have a process of involving and showing that you're consulting with other stakeholders in the city?
Yeah, and we are in the process of actually doing that. The problem is that some of the people that actually should have been there, because in our municipality there must be 15-20 people that are actually working with a strategic plan, and we were like 3 observers. Relevant, yes, and they said that it is relevant to use such a tool. We just have to sort of do it in a properly way, but we cannot do it when it's just a tool that we are sort of developing. If that was developed and we sold it in the right way and made it in Norwegian, we could actually do it in what we call focus interviews or focus processes on certainly areas. And then it would definitely be influenced in the strategic plan. The answers out of these questions will be put in.
I guess just before we move over to Jakob, did you have a chance, Sigurd, to have a look at the PowerPoint slides I sent on facilitator notes? I just wondered whether they made sense to you.
Yes. You mean the RSQ training implementation QUESTIONNAIRE external focus group with expertise and youth and social issues?
No, it's the PowerPoint slides I sent this morning, which is called RSQ Training KRS Process. Not to worry if you haven't looked at it. I just wonder whether.
No. I just put them now on the screen.
That was what I saw, but I think you sent it. Okay, anyway.
It was just going through the process that we used last week, really, and just trying to make notes on what we did.
It's
a sort of aid memoir to any facilitator.
I think that is we need, together with the tool, we need sort of good guidelines how to facilitate. Definitely, that's important. Yeah. But even before that, you need sort of introduction to the tool that says something about what it is, why should you use it, whom is it addressing, what kind of people in the municipality, and in the end it should be how to use it, so you can see the whole process in a way of using such a tool. So it's I think that is actually nice to have as an introduction, and then you have different stages where you go and facilitate the facilitators, how they should actually put up the room and do everything.
If I may interrupt, this is the idea behind creating these user manuals. In my understanding, do you think, Colin, that what Sigurd suggests now, that this would be information to include in these manuals?
Yeah, and I think what Sigurd has said is that we certainly should fairly soon anyway, and might do it before Glasgow, is combine, as a first step anyway, combine the two sets of PowerPoints I sent out this morning. Obviously, the introductory material to the use of the RSQ depends upon which of the three uses that it's being used for. We've identified three different uses of these tests. One in Dynastia was related to the internal strategy team. This one in Kristiansand is related to external stakeholders, external to the city, and the one in Glasgow is going to be related to a project team, which will include both external and internal people. So you're going to probably need a different set of guidelines manual for each of these different uses.
Maybe it would be good before we move on to the to Vejle's questions. Maybe I don't know if they have maybe more questions on how the implementation actually runs, and just to be sure that they that everything is clear for them before they start asking anything. Jacob?
Sorry. Regarding your question, yes, could you actually elaborate a little bit more about the process, because we got some material sent to us yesterday, but we've been in meetings most mornings, so maybe a few more words to clear what happened on the workshop would be very nice. Is that possible?
Colin, I can make you a presenter, and I have the presentation about the stages already up there. So if you want, you can give them a brief overview.
Well, if you could perhaps, can I move the slides from?
Yes. Now you can.
Okay. The first slide that you can see on the screen at the moment is just a setup, really, how we set it up in Kristiansand, and the process we followed just as to introduce participants, introduce the background and purpose of the RSQ, and then the objectives for this specific session with these people. How do I move the slide on? I think I've got it. No? Yes?
On the top, yeah.
That's done it, hasn't it? Yeah. As Sigurd said, it's probably just worth reinforcing this point. It's critical to work hard on working out how many people should be there and who they should be. We had 6 participants. Originally, we were planning on 5 to 7, so that was ideal. But as Sigurd said, he probably might have chosen a different group of people had he have had more notice rather than just 24 hours notice. And obviously the group does need to relate to the specific topics that we've got within the RSQ anyway, which all emerged from the 3 Group Explorer workshops that we did on critical infrastructure, on climate change, and on social issues. So there's likely to be, I would think, in the end, probably a dozen different topics. In this particular group, when I originally spoke with Silje, we decided it was a good idea to focus on social issues, which meant that we decided in advance that we would probably start with social cohesion as the first topic, with an expectation that we might move on to social alienation, which is a subset of social cohesion. In fact, it was very interesting in Kristiansand that actually probably was not really necessary. Not a lot came out of that, although if you look at the notes, there's 1 or 2 things that were particularly interesting. So having at least a proposal about where to start, and then getting some agreement from the group is quite important, I think. one of the difficulties that we hit, and I'm not sure it's a difficulty, but each of the topics starts with an open question about whether the topic itself seems relevant. And when answering the question about that, about whether the overall topic is likely, possible, or unlikely, that tends to prompt discussion that is related to some of the scenarios that will appear underneath. And as it says on this slide, typically the initial summary question prompts that. And so it's important that the facilitator does point that out. And we had to say to the group, well, you're getting into discussion now that is going to come up further below. So let's hold on to that until it comes up under a specific scenario. So what we also, it's interesting, I started with just the screen showing the scenario in text view. And it was interesting, probably after the first scenario, there was a suggestion from the group that it was helping them if I read it out. And I suspect that's something that's probably helpful, and read out the text view and then show them that's what's being read out in a diagrammatic form. Certainly, Susan Eager and myself had thought that probably a group might choose one or the other. But in fact, in the Christiansand experience, my guess is that actually this process works quite well, of reading out the scenario and then looking at a picture of it. I also found it very useful after we'd done 2 or 3. I'd be interested in Sigurd's comments on this, but I found it quite useful to, as a result of the sort of discussion they were having, I would propose one of the answers to click on. So I would propose clicking on possibly or unlikely, and ask for a reaction from what I'd proposed. And quite often they changed what I concluded. And it did usefully prompt some further discussion from the group by seeing a proposed answer. So if I would say, from what you've been saying, it sounds to me as if you're saying possibly. So I click on possibly, that would show up in green, and they would respond to that and say, well, actually, possibly, no, but actually it's more likely. And, so we'd shift it and double click on the likely answer. So that seemed to work quite well. And although I said several times that we didn't have to reach a consensus, I think in most of the cases, I certainly felt that we actually finished up with a consensus about the answer after discussion has happened. As I commented, though, both Vasilius and myself were both writing notes that related to the discussion, and those are contained in that Word document that you've got. I think being able to jot down some of those notes on the screen, on the public screen, so everybody can see the notes, is probably going to be a helpful next step. We didn't have that facility available this week. And then, as it says at the bottom of the slide, we just moved on to the next scenario on that particular topic, and so on. So as it says here, this is the comment box stuff. We just move steadily through the scenarios. One of the interesting issues always for facilitation is trying to get a sense at the back of your mind of the amount of time that you've got available and the number of topics you're hoping to get through, because discussions can last for quite a long time. And so choosing the appropriate point to cut off the discussion is obviously a difficult problem. We hit an interesting issue with this one because the rooms that Sigurd has available are very well used, and so we had to be not just out of the room, but clear of the room and everything at a particular time. And that was half an hour earlier than I had originally expected. So we had to move along a little bit quicker towards the end than I'd expected. I put an estimate of time to get through a topic there of about 30 minutes. I didn't actually time them, so that's a guess. Sigurd and Vasilius might have a better idea. It could have been longer than that, I suspect, more like 40 minutes, although we did take a coffee break in the middle. But I felt the discussions went pretty well. there's the usual facilitator problem of trying to draw in people, keep an eye on people who are trying to say something and not being able to get a word in edgeways, and trying to invite them to come in without giving them a sense that the discussion is being dominated by one person, which every now and again it would be. I mean, we had an 80-year-old person in this group who every now and again would try to dominate the discussion based upon his own personal experiences. But in fact, in quite a number of the scenarios, he came up with some very interesting points. When you finish that topic, of course, there is then the process of deciding which to move to. Now, normally, certainly on the Christensen experience, I thought that was pretty obvious where to go to next. So, for example, immigration kept cropping up in the discussion. So it was very clear fairly early on that we were going to have to spend some time on the immigration topic, which was not one that I'd expected to actually focus on prior to the event, but it became, I suppose, not surprisingly, very significant following the discussions earlier on. The end process, when we got to the end, there's a very useful summary tab now in the RSQ, which I imagine, Jakob, you won't have seen, but it summarizes the answers to the scenarios and puts them in the order of risk and in the order of awareness. And that prompted some quite interesting discussion. In fact, in my own sense, was that we could have usefully had a little bit more time to discuss those final summary results. And you can expand each of the topics so that you can see the answers to the individual scenarios. And I think the group found that quite interesting as a summary. So displaying the scenarios and the answers, and then getting some discussion around the summary stuff was quite important, I think. As I say, the discussion time was probably less than it ought to have been. Then we dashed off to lunch. So I hope that gives a sense of the process we followed. And I think that was really just jotting down the process we followed that time. As Vejle says, it's got to be probably put together more carefully once we've done the Glasgow experiment as well. So I hope that gives you, Jakob, some better idea about what actually happened on the day. It's worth just to be clear that you understand what we had was just one computer, not everybody answering it on an individual basis. We had one computer projecting the RSQ onto a screen so that everybody could see it. And so the discussions, the answers that you've got in the RSQ that I circulated are the answers from the group, not from individuals, which is what you've been doing when we've been trying it out with you at the other workshops. Okay, I hope that's helpful.
A comment from me, Colin. Maybe Vejle also Jakob should have the slides that you actually used in the introduction, because I think that also shows how you sort of actually made the group get focused. They knew more about how the RSQ was built up in a way. So I found actually the slides you were using quite useful for the process.
Yeah, just a comment. The slides are already sent, so all the participants from Vejle, they have them already for further use.
Okay.
Okay, great. If there are not any other immediate questions, maybe we can move on and give the speech to Vejle and start the process based on the guiding questionnaire that we have shared with you, and also if you have any more questions that are prompt from the discussion today. I will put the questionnaire already up there, and the floor is yours.
Okay, thanks. Yes, and just to mention Colin and Sigurd, I'm sitting here with Anna-Charlotte, my colleague. And I guess we'll just do the same thing as we did on Monday. We'll switch between us and simply ask some of the questions that we thought of during this speech here. So maybe I should start. So if we take the guiding question number 1, was the implementations sessions useful for the participants? You already mentioned at least one you talked with Sigurd, so it sounds like it worked at least at some level. So I have some extra questions to that point, I think, and one is how did you I mean, in general, it's actually one question: how did you experience the flow in during the questionnaire? And it could be like, did you feel that it worked right away, or did it work later on, or what are some basic things that needed to be there before the participant kind of felt it worked? Does that question make sense?
I think Colin said something. It took a little while before they understood sort of the questions. So I think it should have been read up for them, because if you read it, you understand what is actually standing there. It can also have to do with the English, actually. Mm-hmm. But after that, it was not a problem to recognize if this was something that is actually taking part in our CD, is it probable, or so on. But as a facilitator, you need to facilitate something. You have to listen carefully to what they say in the conversations, so you are able to help them a little bit on their way to do a judgment if this is something actually taking part in the CD or not. So it's not only it's not like a normal you cannot just do it written like an assessment. You have to do it in a process.
Yeah, and that's actually why I try to use the phrase flow, because in a way this is a special situation, and maybe you will always experience slightly confusion in the beginning, because this is something where you as a participant need to first understand what it's about and then start bringing your own things into it, and the facilitator needs to respond to what the participants bring in. So maybe there will always be the confusion in the beginning, but then if the confusion disappears during the process, then you might actually have something that's working very well, because it copes with confusion and turns confusion into to something valuable to work with. So that was the reason why I used the term flow. So yes.
And the flow, as Sigurd said, the flow was largely only interrupted by questions about the use of English, where somebody in the group, and usually Sigurd, had to sort of translate it and help the group through a translation into Norwegian.
Great.
Okay, in connection to this, I wondered if you found that there was time enough, if the 3 hours was enough, or should it have been more, or?
It's worth noting that 3 hours is probably an overestimate, because by the time we'd gone through an introduction to the SMR project, by the time we got to the end of that, it was 9:30, so that was down to 2.5 hours. We took a 20-minute coffee break in the middle, so that gets us down to just over 2 hours. And also, we had to finish a little bit early to get everybody out of the room as well. So my guess is that it was probably 2 hours of work.
Yeah, but I just wondered, would you have needed more time? In fact, and I mean, if you have a 3 hours meeting, I guess you would always need a break anyway, so you have to take that into account. So it's just, what would be the ideal amount of time?
I think it depends totally upon the number of topics you want to get through. I think you could easily spend a whole day if you wanted to try and get through the whole of the RSQ, but we were focusing only on social issues.
Another question. In the beginning, Sigurd, you mentioned that well, because of the lack of time, you needed to improvise, and you got some people to help you with the workshop, but it wouldn't necessarily be the one you would bring in. So I'm a little bit curious about it. Was that because that they didn't represent the qualifications or the skills you needed in the room, or is it because you would like to work in these sessions, work with people that you know very well and you have a well-established collaboration with, or yes, what was your thoughts about it?
My thought about this is that it wasn't planned. And that is also a process for the city to find out what kind of stakeholders, when we talk about NGOs, are we actually cooperating with. We have so many to choose. So I think today we are very fragmented in where and how we include NGOs into our strategic planning. We don't have a system for that. So this made me think about maybe we should have a system for it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so then for my part, I have, maybe these are silly questions in a way, but I thought and that's a general question to you, Sigurd, if you were to improve what you this tool, what would be the most important thing for you at the moment to improve? Is it a facility, and you could pick in the facilitating part, or the technological part, or flexibility, or any whatever it may be. But what would be the most important things for you to that we improve right now?
I saw during the session that actually we have analysis and reports on more, not all, but many of the things that we asked for. So I would maybe use some more facts when it comes to what we actually know about. And of course, some of it we don't know about, and it's more important to ask questions around. So I would have worked with the statement and made a sort of a qualification of the statement that we actually have in the RSQ.
So regarding the second question in the questionnaire, if the participant was prompted to think afresh about risk facing the city, did you think that they did, or didn't they, according to the questions?
What does afresh mean?
Well, I guess did they think of it in a new way? Did they get something new from it, from the process?
New ideas, new solutions.
new way to look at, I think, risk and how you have to deal about it, or that you need to deal about it.
Yes, I think so. I think it made them think in many ways, actually. And one thing that came up was we should sit more often and talk together like we did in this group, and cooperate better across the NGOs and together with the municipality. That was definitely coming out of it.
Right. So was it when I think it was Colin who mentioned that some of the participants said that they have got a lot from it. Was this having new thoughts, or what was actually the outcome for the participants?
I think it has to do with if we think more together, we will maybe see that we have a role from different NGOs, different way of sort of tackling the problems. Then we can, if we see that in a broader picture, we will see our role and how important it is together with others. I think actually that is the clue.
You mentioned also, Sigurd, you talked a little bit about how to facilitate, and maybe the facilitators need to be facilitated, as far as I understood it. Simple question in a way. How can what can we do to help the facilitators do the facilitating? What is needed to be done with this prototype?
I think Colin is very good at what he's doing, and that is the reason why he is doing it as well. So I think a person like Colin should actually do a facilitator training when it comes to using the tools.
By the way, I agree with you about Colin being very good at this. But what if this should work without Colin? Is there anything? Are there some things we can do technologically, or what else could we possibly do? Could we make it simpler in its construction? Or
what I think is, okay, if I did it 5 times or maybe 10 times, I will also be good at it because I have some skills when it comes to facilitate. And then I should learn up the next one. So what I'm actually saying is that you shouldn't give out the tool without the guidelines or maybe a training for the facilitator how to facilitate.
Oh yeah, and the last thing about that. So if you learn how to do it and then you learn someone else to do it, it's also an interesting approach. I don't know what it's called in English, but in Danish it's lægmandsoplæring, if it makes sense. I don't know if you have that phrase anyway, but the idea that you continue to train each other, and actually by doing that, in a way you also collaborate with other people in a way and create networks and things like that. So that could be an interesting suggestion actually on how to train the trainers, so to speak.
Yes, I agree.
I'm running out of questions. It seems like it actually has some great potential. So that's great. I only have one question, and maybe it's sorry, I'm having a few technical. So the how are the possibilities to bring in questions in the system? Or actually, how is it?
Can you repeat, because I think that we are hearing you quite interrupted.
Yeah, I can hear myself also. Is there anyone who could? Now it's gone. Okay, great. I was actually just actually curious about the possibilities of designing your own questions into this, and how much can you do own design, and how much is it kind of a closed design with a specific amount of questions. And I know that's probably not for Sigurd, but maybe Colin.
I think there's a lot of background programming in Visual Basic at the back of the RSQ. It's a time-consuming process, and also, of course, the validation process also takes some time. We haven't yet fully validated. We've validated about half of it so far. So it would be very difficult, I think, for you to produce something of your own. There's quite a lot of detailed programming in it.
Okay, thanks. I think we run out of questions. So sorry, should we go back to the already asked questions?
No, I think we did it all.
Yeah.
Vasilios here. I would like to get maybe from Colin, what is his take on what Sigurd said about the facilitators training? Do you think that there should be some kind of follow-up maybe or some section in the manuals, or how do you could see that happening?
It's a usual problem with facilitation. There are some people who have done quite a lot of it, including just the experience of trying to effectively chair meetings and so on. I don't think actually facilitating the RSQ is a particularly demanding occupation. I think it just demands a similar sort of skills that you have as a good manager in managing meetings.
Thank you. Okay, if there are not any more questions, we can wrap up the session. What is needed from now on is from Vejle to prepare a short report of 1 to 2 pages on summarizing the webinar, and send it to ICLEI until the 24th of February, in 2 weeks' time. And the potential items of this report is to discuss the constraints and commonalities that you have identified, provide you some final recommendations for the RSQ, and add also some comments on usability or transferability of the tool that you see. And as I said also before, there will be user manuals that will be available in spring 2017, just following the finalization of the tools according to the grant agreement. So thanks a lot for joining. Also, Juan from ICLEI Europe office has been silent with us all this time, and he will work on editing this webinar and then uploading it also on the SMR YouTube channel. And once this is done, I will send you a link to all of you in case that you want to share with someone else within your organizations. So thanks a lot.
Thanks. You're welcome, and see you all in San Sebastian in
3 weeks. Yes.
Okay, look forward to seeing you all there.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.